Good evening, all. Here, I welcome all to WCBinar 11. Today we have Dr. Shabnam Saiyad. She did her doctorate in studying house crow population estimation, their distribution, and food in Junagadh and Rajkot, Gujarat. She secured first place twice in a national symposium conducted by Christ College, Rajkot, and is a full-time assistant professor at Saurashtra University, Rajkot. She is also selected as first DST SERB school in Avian Biology conducted by Salim Ali Center for Ornithology, Coimbatore. Today, we'll hear from her about bird watching from a hobby to study bird ecology. So, over to Dr. Shabnam. All the very best.
Thank you, Kritigya. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Again, it's not moving. Fine. Can you follow my slides? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Shabnam, and the topic that I have selected today for today's talk is bird watching from a hobby to study bird ecology, right? My target audience is anyone who is interested in bird watching, and those who are just beginners in the field of bird ecology research. Particular content that I am going to deliver is divided into two halves. One is bird watching basics, and second is about bird ecology techniques, in which I will discuss about the population estimation, roosting, feeding, anthropogenic influence, and ultimately the habitat evaluation. So firstly, what is bird watching? Bird watching is a kind of a scientific process, right? Because we are not just watching the birds, we are scientifically identifying the birds as well. We are recording the size, the shape, the call, the habitat, right? So it's a scientific process to learn about bird ecology. And ultimately, it leads to a research, right, in the field of bird ecology. And again, if someone is not at all interested in research and everything, it is a useful way to connect the people with nature. And again, it's very affordable, right? And it's a stress buster technique. So what is birding exactly? Birding is nothing but just observation. If you are having good observation skill, you will enjoy the process, right? So someone had rightly said that you can observe a lot by just watching. So it can be start with hobby, then in many countries it is as a sport. It can be bird race. Nowadays, just in Gujarat, lots of bird races are conducted by different organizations. Then it involves in different citizen science project as well. Many organizations are calling for data from local people, and they are gathering all the data and using those data in different research projects. So ultimately, it's very important and basic requirement for the conservation of birds and bird biology. Who can do? Literally anyone can do it. No pre-qualification is required. If you are just fascinated about this feathered friends, you are just hired, right? Where to do? You can start from your window, balcony, backyard, from nearby gardens, even wetlands. They are the very specific place where you can actually learn more, because wetlands are open field. You can observe larger animals, water birds, flamingos, and other species which are very common and very beautiful, so that you can learn very fast. Of course, you can conduct professional visits, go to the field areas, protected areas, right? But you can start from anywhere surrounding. Best visit, of course, all seasons, but winters are very specific because during winters migratory birds aate hain, right? So you can get more diversity, but early morning is a very specific time for birding. Even late evenings are also there. Late evenings mein aap kya dekh sakte ho? Birds are going back to their roosting sites, so you can monitor their roosting pattern and roosting behavior specifically. Tools and skills, you know, the very basic tool that is required for birding is binoculars, right? Second important, if you are very serious and very interested, you can purchase sporting scopes as well. And sometimes telescopes are also used for bird sensors, right? But binocular 10 by X का जो magnification का binocular होता है, that is more than enough. Nikon and Olympus are two basic companies जो कि बहुत अच्छे binoculars बनाते हैं. Sporting scopes भी up to 70x तक आपको magnification दे सकते हैं. They are very good if you are sincere. Second important tool or thing that you should have is obviously, am I audible enough? There is some internet connection.
Yes, yes, you're on.
You are audible.
Okay. So field guide में two very basic and very popular guides are there. One, of course, from the Salim Ali, the Book of Indian Birds. Second, it's Birds of Indian Subcontinent. Now, it varies according to your area. If you are from India and Gujarat, Indian subcontinent se ho, you can definitely go with field guides like this too. And they are more than enough. Just make sure it includes all the maps, all the distribution pattern, male, female, juvenile details, everything. You can actually use nowadays bird apps, bird ID apps, right? Literally, you can directly upload your photograph and you can get the ID. One of the very famous application is Birds of Gujarat. Then eBird is also very useful tool, and it is made by Cornell Lab, and they are specifically ornithological lab. You can actually upload your checklist, you can actually upload your track, and all the data are uploaded from all over the world. Merling is a very important and very useful application, right? In that you can actually go step by step. You can actually answer the questions like what kind of bird it was, what was the size, what was the color. And finally, you can upload the photograph and you can get the identification ID, right? Bird call के लिए भी BirdNet करके एक application है, which is also very useful. Now you all are having binoculars, cameras, सब कुछ है. Let's now move forward towards the observation skills, ठीक है? Which is also very important. So color, shape, size, these are three main basic need to identify any kind of birds. Color is the very first thing that you observe, then shape, and then the size. That size can be relative to common bird. If it is larger than sparrow, like smaller than crow, like that you can note down in your field ID. And distinct marks. If it is bulbul, you can note down that it is having a crest, or if it is any specific peacock or anything, right? Other features are like beak, feet, tail. Some birds are having a forked tail, square tail, wings. Flight pattern is very important to identify. Sometimes birds जो हैं बहुत ऊपर होते हैं, you are not able to see all the colors, but by the experience and by the knowledge, you can actually identify the flight pattern. Say, for example, this particular picture is of black-winged kite, where it is hovering. Hovering means they will just fly like this, and then they will deep down and catch their prey. So that kind of specific behavior you can identify in few species. जैसे कि swift हो गया, they are like moving like zigzag pattern. Acrobatic flight करते हैं वो. Specific behavior. Say, for example, some birds are in large groups. Say, for example, nowadays you can see the rosy starlings, right? They are highly migrated and they are in large flock. Okay. Then this particular second picture is of wagtail. So they actually wag their tail continuously so that you can easily identify the species. Habitat, of course, if it is aquatic, grassland, accordingly you can identify. Call, right? These two particular birds are having very specific calls. So this is the very interesting part of birding. When you hear the call and you identify it, now finally you are certified birder. Another important thing is sunlight. It is much clearer to observe the color and other details when the sun is behind you. Otherwise, kya hoga ki you will not be able to identify the color and the pattern. Some behavioral ethics: be alert when you are in the field. Be alert, try to be attentive, right? And don't just go deep down into the field and you are not aware about the circumstances. Sometimes it can be very kya hua? Okay, sometimes it can be very dangerous if you are in that area and you are not feeling safe, right? So be alert and don't disturb the bird meanwhile when you are observing. Clothings: don't wear bright color clothes. You should have patience, you should be disciplined, avoid vocal disturbance, don't make noise, music, and avoid crowd, right? If you are conducting a visit, just make sure you are few of your group, like 5 to 10 is okay. If you are a larger in group, just make batches and conduct the program. Regular visits are very important to make practice, right? For effective learning, the same place can be visited more and more, and you can get the idea about the behavioral pattern, the microhabitats. Okay? Then you can actually maintain your own checklist and own field IDs. And ultimately, this all exercise is not only useful for you, but also for different motives, different aims of different organizations, which are running general programs such as bird race, such as bird festivals and all. So that was all about bird watching basics. Let's just move towards bird ecology techniques. In that, I will focus on population estimation, roosting, feeding, and habitat evaluation. So population estimation can be done in two ways. We are talking about population of birds, right? So it's very difficult to follow the particular study area. You have to first technically bound your boundaries, right? And then you can start sampling, right? So it can be divided into sampling methods and non-sampling methods. Sampling methods and 2 or 3 types, but here I have just taken line transect and point transect. And non-sampling methods is nothing but you have to count, you have to try to count each and every individual of that particular area, which is possible when the amounts of when the numbers of birds are less and the bird can be actually followed by individual. And in that you can count roosting sites, you can count nesting colonies, but this is just limited to those animals, those birds who are doing regular roostings and regular nesting colonies. But for rest of the people, we have to actually plot line and point counts. So first, I'll discuss the sampling methods. So sampling means you have to select sites. Fine. So for site, it can be randomly selected if the area is very large and the numbers of population, numbers of individuals can be probably very high. Randomly you plot your site, but it can be systematic as well when you want to compare the habitat, right? So it can be random, systematic, it can be stratified, or it can be stratified random. Now, what is the difference between two? In the stratified, it covers different habitats within one single study area. And in stratified random, it's randomly chosen areas in different habitats. Okay? So stratified random में आप सभी type के habitats को select करते हो, but within that habitat, you plot your area randomly. So first is, so this is the picture or diagram of line transect, and here it is point count. So in line transect, what is actually the line transect? It is based on the theory of walking along our predefined route at a regular interval to record the birds on the line and near to the line. So few questions related to line transect can be where to plot it, right? Specifically, you can plot it on an open area, flat area. It should be a homogeneous area. ठीक है, habitat बार बार change नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be thoroughly single same terrain. जिसमें accessibility is very easy. It should not be zigzag, or if there is a stone in between, you can just go left and then continue the line. No, it should be a straight line. You should avoid roads, rivers, contours of hills surrounded, and it should be well spaced out. मतलब जो दो line transects आपने रखी हैं उसके बीच का area भी well spaced होना चाहिए. You can plot permanent transect after your preliminary study. You can mark them with colored stones or colored posts on the tree, and you can divide the transect into segments as well. Say for example, if 50 meter का आपने transect रखा है, तो you can divide it into 10, 10, 10, and you can record accordingly so that आपका calculation जो है, that will be very smooth. What should be the length of your transect? Well, it depends according to your requirement, right? If you want to study a single species, you should lengthen your line. If it is a community study or if it is a diversity of a habitat, you can probably shorten the length. But if it is a rare species, again, you should increase the length of the line, right? So according to your need, you can actually decide the length. And how to determine it? Of course, you have to do preliminary studies, you have to do trials, and ultimately you can come to a model. Then what should be the speed? ठीक है, आपने करा, you can walk? No. You have to walk 8 to 10 meter per minute, maximum 10 minutes, right? And you have to maintain that interval in every transect. What time you should do? Of course, it should be early in the morning, and at least 2 to 3 hours you can cover the entire area, entire length, and try to be comparative in all kind of weathers, but specifically अगर एक ही type का करना है तो you can choose sunny weather. Advantages of line transect is you can actually cover great diversity, right? And you can cover the larger area. And if it is a permanent one, then you can monitor it throughout the years and you can get the pattern as well. But disadvantages क्या है? Distance में you cannot be accurate by your own. Sometimes जो distance होता है, that can skip from your side and you can make mistakes. Then your movement itself can disturb the birds, right? And chances to miss the rare species is very high in the line transect because you are moving. ठीक है, तो आपको जो दिखेगा specifically you can just note down. But advantages में एक और है that you can cover all kind of habitats except wetland one. Even in hilly terrain you can also do it if it is a flat slope. ठीक है? Point count. So point count is nothing like a transect only, but with a zero length and zero speed. You have to be at one spot only, and you have to be there only. Right? So कैसे कर सकते हो? It can be again systematically done, randomly आप कर सकते हो according to your need. It should be 200 meter apart. It should not be very near because when you plot a circle, no, it's very difficult to measure the boundaries. Right? So दो point count के बीच में distance proper होना चाहिए to avoid double counting. Okay. Here the time can be reduced. 5 to 10 minutes ka observation is enough because you have to just take binocular and move yourself and do the observations, right? Not very far, 200 meters से ज़्यादा की radius नहीं होनी चाहिए and not very नज़दीक or close, 2 meter के अंदर भी नहीं होना चाहिए. How to record the distance? Obviously, you can start from your own self and then you can make the intervals from 0 to 25 or 20 to 50 and so on. इसके advantages क्या है? Less time consuming. According compared to line transect, it was taking 2 to 3 hours to complete a 550 meter or 100 meter transect. But here it can be done within 50 to 20 or 10 minutes maximum. And you can give a total attention to that particular area and completely scan that area. And line transect क्या होता है? You are moving. So at moment, whatever you are seeing, you have to note down. But in point count, you actually scan everything. डिसएडवांटेजेस क्या है? जनरेटिंग बर्ड लिस्ट इज वेरी स्लो. ठीक है, आप 1 मिनट में आपकी सराउंडिंग में जितने बर्ड्स होते हैं उतने काउंट करोगे, देन यू विल ऐड ऑल द पॉइंट काउंट्स ऑफ योर एरिया, सो दैट पर्टिकुलर thing is very time consuming, so it will take more time and many species are missed. ठीक है, land transit में you can cover a large amount of area, right? So the species can covered in a very good numbers, but here it can be, some species can be missed. So that was about sampling methods. For non-sampling strategies or larger scale methods, roost counts and nest counts can be done. So first of all, what is roost? Roost is a kind of a place where birds come during night time, sometimes daytime also, and stay, right? So when birds are moving in the evening, you follow them, and then you come to a place where they finally stabilize themselves, and they will stay throughout the night, and second day morning aap jaate ho, to they will just go out from that area. So that is the mechanism how you can identify roost site. So literally you have to follow the flock by raising your motorbike, and you have to go to the destination, and believe me, it's a very fascinating thing to identify and finally locating roosting sites, right? Then you can also follow the calls. It's a mass gathering, so you can actually follow the calls to that particular area. And indirect evidences means even during the daytime, if you go that below that particular tree, you can get the amount of excreta, large amount of excreta, then feathers, right? So these are indirect evidences that finally you can come to a conclusion, no, this is the place where they finally locate. And information from local people. ठीक है, बहुत बार क्या होता है, in urban areas this kind of roosting trees are located in isolated areas where the government offices are there, right? So during that time you can actually get the information from the security persons that during night time this kind of birds are coming or what. Another important characteristic for roosting behavior is to study roost tree characteristics. Why it is important? Because the selection of roosting tree is a very important criteria for bird habitat selection. ठीक है, एक चीज होगा food, जहां पे खाना पानी मिलेगा वो रहेगा. Shelter is a very important thing. For roosting tree characteristic, what you should observe. ठीक है, so different species uses different type of trees for their roosting purpose. So for that you can actually measure canopy cover, canopy height, tree height. ठीक है, so canopy cover is one of the very important part. The canopy should be very large or very small. According to species it can be, say for example in the case of sparrow, the canopy cover can be very small. In the case of crows, the canopy cover will not sufficient for one tree. It can be a group of different trees. ठीक है, so how to measure canopy cover? You can actually measure the radius, and then you can calculate the entire circle. Canopy density can be measured by densiometer, but if you don't have densiometer, you can use vehicular mirror. You can just put that vehicular mirror under the tree, and you can see the foliage, percentage of foliage, and you can count how the canopy is dense. Barabar? Canopy height is measured by subtracting the height of trunk from the entire tree height, right? Tree ka jo age hai, that is also one of the very important criteria, right? According to the girth, DBH, you can also assume the age of tree as well. Other important characteristic that you should observe while selecting a roosting site for particular observation, that is distance from nearest road, distance from nearest feeding site, distance from nearest street lamp if it is an urban bird, distance from nearest other vegetation if it is a completely vegetated area. Obviously the bird will attract to that particular area, but कहीं पे एक छोटा सा roosting tree का पैच मिलता है तो भी वो वहां पे जाते हैं, so that you can also make and remark. built environment कितना है if it is an urban area. So built environment मतलब buildings कितनी है, बड़ी buildings हैं या छोटी buildings हैं. So according to this kind of this 15 parameters I have included, you can include more as well. You can come to a conclusion what are the criteria for particular bird to select roosting sites. This is the picture of particular crow roosting site, right? So this is roosting site and this is a tree. So here the roosting site is made up of almost 10 trees, right? So this is a circle and जो birds हैं वो इस canopy में आके every night they stay. This is the picture of indirect evidences under the tree where you can actually come and see and observe and you can come to a conclusion that this is the final roosting tree. Count कैसे करने हैं roosting में birds को? Every evening you have to go there or with few intervals you have to go there in the evening and you have to count birds per minute, numbers of birds entering into the roosting sites. And second day also you have to count the birds, numbers of birds per minute going out. And probably अगर जो same individuals होंगे तो दोनों evenings and morning के count you have to match and you can come to a conclusion. And those individuals will stay in that particular roosting only. Nesting counts, obviously one of the very important data to conclude the breeding population of that particular area is nesting colony. ठीक है? So benefit क्या है nesting colony के? It is easy and accurate data मिलता है आपको क्योंकि nest जो है वो हर साल वहाँ पे आएंगे. So every year you can monitor birds and you can get the idea and you can actually photograph them and you can come to your place and then very at your own time you can actually count them. Disadvantages क्या है? कई बार we disturb them a lot during our field because it's a nesting colony. So nest or nesting colony को disturb बिल्कुल भी नहीं करना चाहिए. So that was all about the non-sampling methodology for population estimation. Right? So I'm not able to move it again. Yeah. So feeding ecology. Feeding ecology is something very tricky part of your study because feeding sites जो होती हैं, they are not much regular. Firstly, at least when you are doing your primary study, it's not much regular that birds will come here and in a regular manner they will come here. But by your after your preliminary study and at least after 1 year of study, you can able to divide them into two types majorly. One where the birds are regularly visiting and second where they are not regular but less frequently coming. ठीक है, जब भी food available होता है and they share the knowledge, they can come. But in the case of regular major feeding sites, they will come very regularly. Even the food is not available, they will come and they will inquire. Right? So accordingly, you can divide. Of course, this kind of activities is possible for urban birds. In the case of forest birds and grassland birds, you have to go and you have to monitor everything and you have to identify birds, tree species or different specific individuals. Okay. But in the case of this kind of urban scenario, you can actually divide them into regular and less frequent sites. And at that site, what you can okay. So ये जो feeding sites हैं वहाँ पे what kind of data you can take the type of food, you can take the different animals, animals also. Say for example, birds may, squirrels also can come and they forage together, right? So if there is any competition, if there is any coexistence, if there is any kind of stealing food, so there is a term that is called as kleptoparasitism. That term is meant by stealing the food from one individual to another individual. Specifically, crows में ये बहुत होता है, right? So this kind of data you can actually take. You can also divide your area according to type of land, whether it is a residential area, park, slaughterhouses, commercial area, agricultural land, right? So different type of land can also provide different type of food. So accordingly, you can also divide and have an idea that what kind of opportunity they can take in the urban areas, specifically I'm talking about. फूड प्रेफरेंस भी आप देख सकते हो, where you can actually make idea what kind of food is available in the area and what kind of preference they are taking. So that is all about feeding ecology. Human activity indexes. So when you want to quantify how much disturbance of human activities, anthropogenic activities are causing, some indexes are there. You can actually locate your particular site, select your site, roosting or feeding, and you can measure the distance from nearest building. You can measure the distance from nearest road, nearest traffic area, right? And you can measure the distance, that it is how much it is close or how much it is far, and accordingly you can measure the score, and you can give the score for individual parameters, and you can make the final index. And then you can have the idea that this species is this much tolerant to human. Habitat evaluation. अब तक जो हमने करा, roosting, nesting, breeding, anthropogenic, land type, everything includes habitat evaluation. So such kind of habitat suitability index can also be performed, right? So basically habitat suitability index is measuring the carrying capacity and population size that can be supported by the available resources. So how you can do, you can actually score them. You can actually score different parameters and you can make this index. So how you can do it, you can actually first set your objectives by your literature review and primary study. Then you identify your own model variables that you want to take interspecies competition, you want to take roosting sites, trees availability, you want to take food availability in that area, right? Then structure your model completely and then verify that model with few trials, and then you're good to go to test the habitat, right? So thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you for this amazing session, Dr. Shabnam. It will help a learner and a newbie like me as well. And now here we come to